Hey y'all, welcome back to Made It Out. Today I'm here with actor, comedian, writer, producer, and one of the hosts of the Handsome podcast, Tig Notaro, and we're talking about her brand new documentary, Come See Me in the Good Light. I had the privilege of watching it early. I just watched it last night, and it is absolutely incredible. It tells the story of Andrea Gibson, who was a spoken word poet, and their battle with terminal ovarian cancer. Today, we're going to talk about Tig's 25-year friendship with Andrea. We're going to talk about her own personal struggle with cancer and death and grieving. Stop what you're doing and listen closely because Balessa and I are giving away gift cards or spicy toys to every single one of you. That's right, every single person who signs up will win something. If you haven't heard of Balessa, let me put you on. They are a by women for everyone company who is completely flipping the script on sexual wellness. And of course, I had to hook you all up, so my friends at Balessa and I are sending out free gift cards or toys to every single person that signs up. Just click the link in the description or head over to bbvibes.com/made. That's bbvibes.com/made. I've learned a lot about Tig, including the fact that Tig's name is actually the same as my girlfriend, Matilde.
Yeah.
You are here to talk about your documentary, which I had the privilege of watching and was so impressed by.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want you to introduce Andrea for maybe some of our listeners who don't know who they are.
Andrea Gibson was a dear friend of 25 years and also one of the greatest poets. And my wife pointed out recently that Andrea now will go down as a known poet, like by name, which is, there's what, like 5 in the world? Like
I
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't even know. You just know Dr. Seuss.
Yeah.
Right. But that's what's incredible. Just meeting Andrea so many years ago in Colorado and Boulder backstage and just introduced like, oh, this is Andrea Gibson. Andrea's a poet. That's like interesting. I wasn't in that world.
Right.
Andrea looked like a rock star, just tatted up, cool. I was like, I know this look from like the gay scene and the music scene and comedy, but a poet? And then Andrea went on stage and just annihilated the room. It was a roller coaster ride to be at an Andrea performance of just sobbing to deeply, deeply hilarious. Andrea was not only one of the funniest people I knew, but you know the kind of people that it just feels so good to laugh with? Like you just lock into a cackle together. And Andrea was so that. Was also the poet laureate of the state of Colorado. And
What does that mean for people who don't
I
understand?
think it's basically somebody that really highlights, encourages people in the state, children, you know, to pay attention to poetry. And I'm probably making all of that up. I don't know. That was just my scrappy
Your
little
best guess,
poet
yeah.
friend that was a poet laureate. Sounds amazing. I don't really know what Andrea was doing other than I think just spreading the good word of poetry.
What were you performing at that you both were there?
I wasn't even performing.
Oh, okay.
Andrea was part of this activist group. They did live performance. They were called Vox Feminista. Poetry, comedy, sketch, music, different ways to get the word out about different social, political issues, which, you know, to be fair, they were preaching to the choir in Boulder, but it was a world that I held similar beliefs, but I had never been in any sort of world of activism until that time period, or people that were deeply involved politically and socially. So I was just there backstage with my friend who was performing and introduced me to Andrea. Andrea and I were both kind of on similar trajectories in different careers, poetry and comedy, and did little random gigs to rock clubs. Neither of us were terribly mainstream starting out, which is also so insane that we met so many years ago and both became relatively mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was like 2001 when I met Andrea.
Yeah,
And like there's no world when I met Andrea that I would be thinking, oh, Oprah's going to be talking about this person one day. Andrea could not have been more fringe.
Why do you think their voice came through so much?
Andrea is so accessible,
Mm.
just really knows how to, with the least amount of words, just get you.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have not ever shared Andrea's poetry with somebody that didn't just go, "Oh my God."
Mm.
And Andrea would always say that poetry should not have to be for people with like college degrees, and it should be reach everybody. And I just think Andrea had an openness and very liberal beliefs, but was never shut down to anybody, you know?
It's interesting that you both shared this kind of similar path as well. You both dealt with illness and facing mortality. Did you guys talk about that a lot?
I wouldn't say a lot because I was also living in Los Angeles. I lived in Colorado different periods of my life. And when I had cancer, I was living in California. I mean, Andrea's been in Colorado for decades. What was really wild to me was after I came through my experience of cancer and the other illnesses I had, I asked Andrea to help me express myself through their poetry because I had all of these thoughts and feelings. I don't have that talent that Andrea had, but I had something I wanted to say and express. And I said, what if I ran these ideas by you and these different thoughts and lines, and could you make something of this? So Andrea and I met down in Austin because the idea turned into a song, poetry and a song. And a friend of mine in Austin, Patrice Pike, a great singer, I thought, what if we all just meet and work on this song coming through my cancer diagnosis and see what we come up with. And so we spent this time down in Austin working on this project, and it's so insane now that I got through that and that Andrea would be diagnosed with terminal cancer. And I shared the song at the memorial because I never did anything with it. And it was so incredible and haunting because it's about the urgency in life of like not taking things for granted and the important, like call your mother right now. And I think I mentioned my mother died in the middle of me being ill. And it was just all of these themes that Andrea would later be dealing with. And
can we talk about just the trajectory of Andrea's, because for people who don't know and who haven't seen the documentary, just like their story of, you know, when they were diagnosed, kind of what that looked like, and then what happened ultimately?
yes, when Andrea was diagnosed, Andrea went through treatment and chemo and I mean, zapped it out. It was like, wow, Andrea beat that, got through that. But it was unfortunately a very aggressive form of ovarian cancer, and it came back months later. It just became the managing and trying to find a doctor or different trials and certain trials were working. Deep down, I couldn't imagine that this world would be without Andrea Gibson. The other producer and I were talking, and I said, this is so crazy, but I'm like secretly believing and hoping that Andrea's lying. Like, you know, you hear those stories
Oh my
about
gosh, yes.
people that fake cancer. And I was like, I am holding out hope that our friend is a liar because that I can deal with.
Yeah.
That's a sign of massive trauma. And man, let's figure this out. You know,
Yeah.
Why did you feel like you needed to lie about this? Even when I saw Andrea in the final days, 3 days before Andrea died, Andrea was sitting up, talking, telling their parents, like, oh, tell my mom and dad about that story of Max and Finn, or when Finn was doing this thing, or Max said that. I really thought I'm going to leave here in a few days and Andrea's going to live for a few more months. In 3 days, Andrea was gone, which is crazy. And I've seen that many times after having cancer and being submerged in the world of cancer and doing so many charities and charity events. And you meet people that are stage 4 and they seem completely fine. And then I'll get an email 2 weeks later. Oh, Kate, who was at that event, passed and wanted me to reach out and thank you for coming to the, and I'm like, she's gone? Like, it's astounding how somebody can look and seem a certain way.
Did it make you reflect on just the fragility and like your own journey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I do have survivor's guilt because it was glaring when I was around Andrea and Andrea is struggling and I'm, as far as I know, healthy.
Right.
It's a very confusing thing. And it goes back to just wanting to take care of myself because a lot of people like myself wait until their body fails.
A big message in that documentary, or something that I took away, was how fully Andrea lived, even in the final months, days. What did that teach you about your own life or about the way we should live?
Andrea and Meg is Andrea's wife, and until those last moments, the level of hope, not just hope, but gratitude and love, no matter how much pain they were in some days, no matter how much they were struggling to breathe some days, they were still getting up and like working out. That's hope when you are at the end and you know it. And that's why Andrea, it was always called incurable. To not say this is going to be terminal. A cure can come at any moment.
Right.
So it's smart to not give up. Your body listens to your mind. It's all connected.
Yeah.
I know people talk about it and it can sound like cuckoo stuff, but it's true. No matter how long it carries you, that time that you're alive, the amount of hope and gratitude and all of that, it's not a story of somebody that just was full of life and positive and died peacefully. And it was everything that life is.
Yeah.
And it was everything that those final moments can be. I'm not a drug person, but I felt like I was on drugs, witnessing and being a part of the pain and beauty of Andrea's final days, getting up and going on 6:30 a.m. hikes to watch the sunrise and try and make sense out of what I just witnessed and how to never let go of that. And that's what sticks with me is Andrea's hope and that just gumption, getting up, working out with terminal cancer.
You also bring up the community aspect, which was something that did stick with me. They talk about how a lot of their friends are Andrea's exes, which is so the truth of what the queer community can be and how, it is this family. And I sometimes think about, just even in my relationship, how those hard days are made easier by friends you have that are going through the same thing. Or, it's very clear that they had that around them. Stop what you're doing and listen closely, because Balessa and I are giving away gift cards or spicy toys to every single one of you. That's right. Every single person who signs up will win something. If you haven't heard of Balessa, let me put you on. They are a by women for everyone company who is completely flipping the script on sexual wellness. You've definitely seen Balessa's viral toys all over your For You page, like the rose. It blew up for a reason. This little flower-shaped suction toy is iconic. Or their famous Whisper collection, which, is the first fully silent vibrator. If you live with roommates or parents, or even if your partner is sleeping right next to you, these toys are silent, I promise. Or they have a new Pebble Pro, which they just won up their best-selling Pebble with a stronger, smarter, and seriously spicy redesign. Balessa somehow figured out how to engineer a one-stop pleasure shop with 3 interchangeable heads. It sucks, it thumps, it licks, it vibrates. I'm speechless. And of course, I had to hook you all up. So my friends at Bellessa and I are sending out free gift cards or toys to every single person that signs up. Just click the link in the description or head over to bbvibes.com/made. That's BBVIBES.com/made.
The love that surrounded Andrea Gibson was truly extraordinary. These are people that live in Boulder, in and around and with Andrea. I'm in LA. I'm a public figure. I'm going on a press tour. Drew Barrymore and Stephen Colbert aren't going to call up Andrea's ex-girlfriend. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. So I'm by no stretch on that level of close intimacy that the people in Boulder, these extraordinary friends and exes of Andrea's, I mean, they had a weekly group that would Zoom to try and sort through doctor's appointments. Oh. It's really beautiful.
Another parallel between you and Andrea is that you both shared very vulnerable journeys and pains with a public audience and turned it into art. What has that cost you and what has that given you?
So much of both. I was very closed off in ways before 2012. Nobody forced me to share my story, but I was like, I cannot just casually talk on stage. And I love stand up and I want to tell this story. And oh my God, am I going to do this? And I did it. And being so vulnerable and sick and losing my mother and my girlfriend, I broke up in the middle of it too. And I was just like, I lost everything, you know, and I lost so much, but I gained so much. It's that bittersweet thing of like, I lost my health and my mother and my girlfriend. So much darkness and loss can open the door to so many other things. And it's hard to say that you're grateful for those moments because you lost so much. If all of that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have Stephanie. I wouldn't have Max and Finn.
Wow.
I wouldn't have the health that I'm pretty sure I have. You know, I've had to kind of sort through, after sharing so much, what do I share now? I thought I had to share everything all the time after that. As the years have gone by, I've been like, I'm not going to share this. Or like Stephanie will say, I feel like that's just for us, you know? Yeah. That's, again, that thing where I go, she's right. That is just for us. Whereas before I'd be like, yeah, and then, like, who knows what was flying out of my mouth. It's humbling to lose your health. It's humbling to have friends sponging your mouth. It's humbling to be in a diaper. It's humbling. It's so humbling. And it's also like, and then you come through it and it's like, man, I have a slightly different perspective now.
There's a really interesting duality in that. It really forces you to have a lot of gratitude looking at life that way. And like your losses eventually bring you to things that are great that you have. But that's
you hope. But it doesn't always mean, like when I was going through that in 2012, I don't know if you're familiar with Ira Glass from This American Life. He said, you know what you've gone through, and that all of that stuff happened to me in a 4-month period of time. I had pneumonia, I had an intestinal disease, and I had invasive cancer. My mother tripped and hit her head and died, and my girlfriend and I broke up in 4 months. And Ira said, you know, what people think is random is like kind of spread out and oddly placed. And he said, sometimes random can be all together. And he said, that's equally as random, is when it all hits at the same time. That's random. That's so random.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't help but feel like you're never going to get out of that hole when you have 3 illnesses. You're always in a wheelchair. You're hospitalized again. You're in another surgery. You're at your mother's funeral. Your girlfriend, like, you know, I'm like, I guess this is my life from here on out. I'm cursed. And then you come through it. When I came through that, I was like, oh my, I'm good. I'm like, what else could happen to me? And things happen again.
Yeah.
And things will keep happening. And it was a massive lesson, is I'm not skating off in life now just because I went through that in 20. I didn't get like all of my check marks of like, I'm through all my trauma. I'm just going to have a great life now. This is so awesome. I really thought that. I don't know if I'm the dumbest person alive.
No, I can't say sometimes I don't feel like that either. There's certain things that I feel like, oh, once that happens, like that'll be my big trauma and then my life will be perfect. I have felt that
So
way.
you're
So it's
dumb
interesting.
too.
I'm dumb too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a massive fear of my parents' death.
Yeah.
I just really carry the weight of that really heavily. And then sometimes I do think like, okay, once that Band-Aid is ripped off, well, maybe then that's like, that's horrible to say and think, but sometimes I am.
And then
like,
you'll just have
other shit is going to happen.
but maybe not. But I think that is what is so unbelievable about life. We don't know what is around the corner. And I am so here for it. And I have to tell you, I understand what you're saying about your parents, and there is no way to deal with that or get over that. And Andrea's death did this for me. Death is coming for all of us. And I know you know that. This was the 4th end of life bed I was at. And I really got in touch with the other side of clinging to, I can't lose this person. I can't lose this thing. If there's any way to really go towards, I am going to lose this person. And I need to explore this. It's good to be positive, but it's also good to be positive and to stay in conversation about the reality of what's coming. It's easier said than done. And like I said, I'm not there fully, but that particular loss, I was like, this keeps happening. People keep dying that I love and care about. And I need to, I hate to sound cheesy, but like make friends with that idea.
Wow.
Because it's coming.
How do you make friends with it? How do you sit in that
I
uncomfortable?
think you keep the conversation open. Like hearing you say that you are holding on, and you love your parents. And that's so incredible with anybody that you love, to start preparing yourself. It's not morbid. It's just accepting the bigger picture of life is death. Who knows how anybody's going to die? If there's a choice to lay out how you want to go, how your loved ones want to go, if they're willing to have that conversation, if you are, I think it's worth having. When people are holding tight in denial, you're getting ripped in a moment, rather than really being there and trying to move towards acceptance.
I really appreciate you sharing that, because it is something that really weighs on me. So
Absolutely.
Can you talk a little bit about the stages of grief, or your process,
Yeah.
your interpretation of?
It's all been so different. As I was saying, I've been at 4 bedsides. One was my mother, one was my cousin, one was my stepfather, and then Andrea. I think when my mother died, it was so sudden. I was so confused because I had just gotten out of the hospital myself. And then 2 days later, I had to check with a doctor to see if I could even travel, like to go take my mother off life support. TV and film they don't prepare you really for what death looks like. I thought my mother was going to just take one last breath and quietly pass, and it was not that. Wow. It was like watching somebody drown, and you have to just let them drown for hours. I was stunned. This was my first experience with death. I just was not prepared in any way. And so I think that I got busy, and I was also on this weird trajectory with my career because my story exploded in the press, and I was just kind of bouncing from interview to photo shoot to TV taping. And I was like, I had fresh scars across my chest from cancer, and my mother was gone. And I was so confused. I remember I was sitting on my couch, and I felt like I was about to fall off the planet. I really felt like I had to get off the couch and hold on to the ground. Like I said, in 2012, I was still a very different person, where I was trying to hold it together and seem okay. Your body is like, no, you're not. I see myself still coming through it. And I think whatever the stages of grief are, that's great. And I appreciate the research and education and however people came up with that. But I am 13 years after losing my mother and losing my health and all of that. And I feel like I can still have moments where I'm like, oh my God, I'm still getting up off the floor and like dusting my pants off. Like I didn't realize that affected me. And yeah, use whatever the stages of grief are to kind of expect and navigate certain elements of it. But it's going to keep happening in waves. And that goes back to keep yourself open to that's coming. You don't wrap it up and move on, you know? All the different experiences in life are going to trigger different parts of you that have and haven't dealt with the grief. I was never somebody that was like doing my career for accolades from my parents. Like I just didn't have that relationship where I'm like, did you see me do it? Yeah, I'm on top of the world. You know, and like I don't have that in me. People would be like, oh, are you sad your mother didn't see your nomination for this or that? I'm like, my mother, like, I don't care about that. Like my mother, I would love for my mother to meet my wife and my kids, you know?
Yeah.
So grief comes through all of those moments, the good and the bad, but it's just always going to be there. But it's also a superpower. Just your compassion, your sensitivity, your openness and awareness. And there is that side of grief that it's bittersweet, you know, but it's always there, or pops up and you're like, oh, I guess I still need to deal with that. And I'm thankful for those windows to open and remind me that I haven't looked at that in a while.
What do you do when you look at it?
Well, it depends on what it is. Sometimes it's really heavy and I go, all right, I got to set aside a weekend to like really take some time, explore, or talk to Stephanie, or, you know, I'll take notes of, you know, things I want to talk to my therapist about. I try not to ignore that stuff. I think of my brain as an attic, and I don't ever want to walk up into that attic and pick up a box and go, dust it off and go, what is this? You know, I want a clean attic. I want to go up there and be like, yeah, how impressed are you when you see a clean attic?
Yeah.
You know, I don't have it fully, but I feel like I'm pretty good. When Andrea died, I was in another area of Colorado with my wife and kids, and that was great, but I wanted to be back where everybody was and where that experience was going on. And I called Stephanie from my hike one day and I was like, this is going to sound insane, but I have so many feelings and thoughts, and like, I feel like I could walk to Boulder right now. Oh my God. And she was like, what? And she's like, what are you going to do? Where are you going to sleep? And I was like, I don't know. I feel like I could sleep on the side of the mountain. I'm not worried about bears or mountain lion. I feel, and I said, I even already looked it up on my GPS. It'll take me 4 days to get there. And she was like, oh my God. And she's like, you're not really going to walk there. And I was like, probably not, but I'm telling you, I'm full of a lot of feelings right now. And it feels like when I saw 4 days on my GPS, I was like, that's no problem. Yeah. I can do that. You know, that's what grief does too. It's like keeps you awake, or you want to go on a hike and see the sunrise every morning for weeks, or you want to just walk back to Boulder.
That's an interesting way to think about it, that it's like that it gets you.
It can. Or some people are, you know, stuck in bed.
I really appreciate you being so open about it. We play a game. It's called You Haul or You Ghost. We're going to pretend like Stephanie's not in the picture for a minute and you're back out on the dating scene.
Okay.
You meet a person and they're perfect in every single way, except for they have this one quirk.
Oh.
They drink a Red Bull the first thing every morning.
I would run away, but I'm not a fan of ghosting, but yes.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. Okay. You run.
Yeah, I run. You haul or you run. It's such a huge part of my life, eating well, exercising, doing all of that kind of stuff. Even though I'm not married to Stephanie in this scenario, I love taking our morning walks, and I love making smoothies together, and
different lifestyle.
Yeah, and I like experiencing it with somebody. I'm also a firm believer that sometimes, because obviously if you really fall for somebody, that anything is on the table.
What about if she really just uses joint TV time in the living room to cut her toenails?
I'm not anywhere near pop culture. I used to have a talk show called Under a Rock with Tig Notaro, where I'd invite a guest on and I'd say, please welcome this person. And then I'd interview them to try and figure out who they were.
Oh my God, I'm obsessed with that.
So I'm fine. Whatever's on the TV and nail clipping, just sweep it up. And
You're okay with
I'm
that?
country mouse, you know?
Okay.
Country mouse is cool with some clippings on the floor.
Okay, I like that.
So you haul it in.
U-Haul.
Yeah.
What about if they don't like to sit in the front seat? So when you drive together, it's kind of like you're an Uber driver.
Move in. That's fine.
Really?
I like ridiculous things, and that's ridiculous.
It's like a bit.
It's just like my wife sits in the back seat. There's certain things that like I get excited to tell people. Like my last comedy special, everyone that worked on it was nominated for an Emmy except me, and my wife directed it, and I wasn't invited to the Emmys, and yeah.
Wait, are you serious?
Yes. I went as her plus one. And some people, when they hear that, they go, oh, and I'm like, no, it's not. Oh, it's such a great story.
That's funny.
Like, I love that my wife was nominated for an Emmy and that I was her I wasn't invited to the Emmys, you know? And it's like, also that person sits in my back seat. Like, I like anything ridiculous.
Yeah. We have our friend Jacqueline. She was on the new L Word series.
Oh, yeah, so was my wife.
Oh my gosh. And she has never won a GLAAD award. Never, whatever. Her sister has won 2. And she's like a straight woman.
That is hilarious.
I know. So we all give her so much shit about the fact that she's never won a GLAAD award.
That's hilarious. I think I've been nominated. I've never won a GLAAD award. I've never won any award. But I also have never like, I was robbed.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, it wasn't mine.
I feel like this conversation has helped me and Matilde more than we expected.
Look, I've never met you. I rarely drive anywhere, but I want people to know about Come See Me in the Good Light, the documentary. I will go anywhere. I will do I would have walked here. And I really appreciate you having me on and letting me talk about this. It's the thing I'm most proud of in my career is this film. It's true. It's very true. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Where and when can people find it?
November 14th, it will be on Apple TV. Yeah, Andrea didn't think that they were going to live to see the film, and it was incredible. We finished the film, submitted it to Sundance without telling Andrea because we didn't want to let anybody down in case it didn't get in. This film got in unanimously with a panel of 15 people deciding. I've never gotten that feedback from Sundance. Unanimous.
Wow.
The group of people that made this film, it was 1,000,000% love and passion. When I called Abby Wambach and Glennon Doyle, who I knew were fans of Andrea's, I said, I'm doing a project about Andrea Gibson. And they said, can we send you a Zoom link right now? These people go to bed at 7 p.m. It was like 8 o'clock. They sent me a Zoom link within seconds. And I pitched I said, we're doing this documentary. And they said, we of course want to be a part. Let us talk about it. Let us talk to our business managers. We'll get back to you. I was like, amazing. Hung up. 30 seconds later, they texted saying, we're in for $500,000. And I was like,
wow.
And that was the beginning of green lights from investors to crew. The crew that worked on this movie, after it wrapped, continued to go back and visit Andrea and Meg because they love them so much.
Wow.
It was like a family. When the movie got into Sundance, we all got an Airbnb. We went to Sundance. Andrea was able to get there and not just see the final film, but go to the premiere and see the standing ovation, feel the emotion. And, you know, there's funny moments in the movie, and hear the Will Ferrell level of laughter in the theater. And then we would all go back to the Airbnb and have tea and sit by the fire and talk and share stories and laugh, and just had our own little, not very Sundance experience, because Anytime I'm normally at Sundance, we are at doing press, we're at parties, we have to do all of that stuff. We were very strategic. We would get in the car. Everybody would go to a party, to an event. We'd meet who we had to meet, HBO, Netflix, hello. And then we'd be like, let's get out of here.
Get out.
And then we would we'd go back to the house and we'd sit and have tea and laugh. Let me tell you, we left Sundance and I was back filming in Toronto. 2 days later, my phone is like a million texts, a million phone calls. It's the director, the producer, it's Andrea, it's Meg. I called Stephanie. I was like, oh my God, everybody's calling and texting. I'm mortified to return this. And she was like, I love you. You have to make this call. And I call, Andrea and Meg answer on speaker. And I'm like, hey, I'm like about to cry, anticipating this bad news. And I'm like, hey, and they're like, hey, did you hear? And I was like, no, what? And they're like, we won the Sundance Festival, like the top award. And I was like, what? And I'm like, I go from about to cry to like, we did. We were so removed from how our film was doing. We had no idea.
Wow.
Because we called it Snuggle Down. We were just like sitting around in this loving, supportive, magical environment.
Wow.
And we had no idea we were like the film that was getting, like, everybody voted for that film and then it went to all the different festivals, and basically more than half of the festivals won the same top award.
Wow.
Yeah.
What
and
an
then
incredible story.
boom, sold to Apple TV. And so it's just been a green light the whole way. And people have just responded so beautifully. And so my point is, yes, this is what I'm most proud of in my career. And I appreciate you having me on the show. And I hope people will mark this down on their calendars and watch and tell their friends, because it's beautiful. And Andrea has 1 million books and so many things that they've left behind to carry us through and appreciate after they're gone.
November 14th.
Apple TV.
Apple TV. It's absolutely incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for listening to today's episode. As always, help us spread the gay agenda by writing an Apple review, rating us on Spotify, and sharing with everyone you've ever met. And if you haven't yet, join our subscription community, Made It In, for exclusive Made It Out media shows, content, and chat rooms at madeitout.supercast.com. Made It Out is produced by Matilde Jordan and worked on solely by lesbians.